My goodness, that was a hell of a press conference, Robbie, for someone presumed dead mere days ago. Sam Mirejovsky here, News Talk 840 KXNT. Welcome to the What's Right Show, your place for common sense conservatism, Monday through Friday, 1 to 3 p.m. Yes, I'm here every day, except for Saturday and Sunday, and except for holidays. Sorry we were off yesterday for Labor Day. At any rate, well, what I'm referring to is, of course, Trump just had a wide-ranging press conference, touched on a lot of topics. And he looked good to me. I mean, on Saturday, the number one trending topic on social media was a rumor that Trump had passed away. I think that's the only place it really existed. This is how eager the left is to get rid of Donaldus Maximus. He must be doing something right. Well, he got approached about that. By the way, there was a moment in the press conference that I thought was probably one of the most important. And Trump gets asked, I don't remember who asked the question, but one of the media scrum people there inside the Oval, Trump, by the way, not behind his desk, he was standing, looked good. Again, I just have to restate that. He looked vigorous as ever. Anyway, he gets asked about Putin. Mr. President, will you be talking to President Putin? And Trump, to some in total of it was, hell no. Yeah, we're done talking. I think Putin's going to find out a few interesting things from us in the next several days, was the gist of the answer. Now, I'm bringing this up here because it was a blink and you missed it news story that maybe is not on your radar, but I think it's important, so this is why I'm going to bring it up. Apparently, some documents were leaked in France. This was a big problem, I guess, if it was a data breach or whatever, but basically internal classified government documents in France were leaked. And they reveal that there is a directive handed down by the president of France, Emmanuel Macron, for hospitals to prepare for a full-scale war with Russia. The hospitals have been told to prepare for major engagement, mass casualties, not just from France's forces, but wounded soldiers from across Europe. Other documents claim that Germany's military chief says NATO will be on alert as Russia gears up for a possible invasion out west. It's a massive drill with Belarus, which is a former Soviet republic that is allied with Vladimir Putin. Now, what do I make of all of this? Well, first of all, right? I don't know personally how it's possible for Russia to invade all of Europe when they haven't gotten really that far in Ukraine. I understand a lot of people have died. I'm not making light of the Ukrainian war at all. That's not my point. My simple hypothesis here is how do you fear Russia as some major bugaboo if they haven't been able to conclude this military operation that they claimed, Putin did in the beginning, claimed it would be over in a matter of days. Never forget that it was within hours of the invasion that special forces, Russian forces, went to occupy Kiev, the capital, and were repelled. So it's not a judgment call on Putin, on Ukraine, on anything. I'm letting you know it didn't go as planned. And that had precious little to do, in my opinion, with Biden's support of Ukraine, and everything to do with the fact that the Russian military was not as prepared as Putin maybe thought it was. So there it is. I don't know, but here's this matters because we literally had coming up to the weekend one rogue lib judge here in the U.S. who wanted to strip Trump of his tariff powers. The greatest tool that Trump has to bring Russia to heel without firing a single shot is to encircle them with financial death. How does this work? Let me give you an example. Russia has raw minerals, has oil, and has gas. There's a major conference over the weekend where a whole bunch of our favorite characters met in China, including Kim Jong-un, Putin, and of course they were meeting with their host Xi, the president of Chinese communists there. And what did they talk about? Well, the Russians are intent on building a gas line to China. Well, that's all fine and dandy. By the way, that would be a huge shot in the arm financially for the Russian Federation. But guess what? Whether it's China or any other country, if we simply said as the United States of America, we will not do business with anyone who does business in turn with Russia, this could, I mean, I can't even, right? You'd close off the U.S. market. Oh, and by the way, you'd close off the European market too, because despite whatever differences Trump has with the Eurocrats, this is a topic on which they agree. So we are going to close the entire Western world. So basically, if India wants to do business with Russia and China wants to do business with Russia, that's fine. They can trade amongst themselves. And by the way, India and China hate each other. So good luck with that. The whole thing just isn't going to be good for Russia. And this type of encircling, of financial encircling that the Biden really never thought of. He kept talking about sanctions, this and that and the other, but never the nuclear button when it comes to sealing the Russian Federation off from the rest of the world. So anyway, this is it. Now, but again, Trump has to win in court, right? Trump has to get past all of these just activist judges who each individually, as mere trial court federal judges, think that they're the president. It's wild to me. It boggles the mind. And I got to tell you, here's just for everybody out there listening. You know that somebody somewhere at some point is going to tell you, but Trump doesn't have the power and the authority to do this tariff thing. It has to go through Congress, blah, blah, blah. Come prepared with some facts. Congressional delegation on the tariff powers is documented and extensive. Congress has passed numerous laws that invest in the president the ability to impose tariffs. There's specific conditions, but, just stop me if you think that any of these might be familiar. For example, Section 232 allows the president to impose tariffs on imports if there is a threat to national security. China certainly falls in line with that. Now, what about unfair trade practices? That's covered in Section 301, and trade deficits. Section 122, literally the only things that Trump has ever talked about when it came to Liberation Day and since in his trade war, if you want to call it that, has been to talk about national security, unfair trade practices, and trade deficits. It's all he does. Because that's what this is about. And they'll always squirrel around with you. I've had this in a number of debates with people. Well, it's national security and only national security. What is he doing with Canada? Canada's not a threat to it. Well, Canada and us have historically had an abusive trade deficit that benefits Canada at the expense of the United States. There you go, Section 122. Bam, that's the exception. Is this a new law? No, good question. It goes back to 1974. It gives the president the power to tax imports for 150 days from countries that have large trade deficits. So it hasn't been 150 days yet. And then presumably they can go away and get reinstated again. So maybe some of that seesawing where Trump goes back and forth and the left yells, taco. Trump always, caves, right? The whole thing with the premise of it is like, well, maybe Trump is just resetting the clock over and over again. So some of the stuff that's happening behind the scenes is quite smart. Now, Trump, for his part, he's going to appeal this decision to strip him of his tariff powers to reverse these tariffs. He's going to take it, I think, this week sometime on appeal straight to the Supreme Court, who I anticipate, given this goes to the heart of his core presidential powers, will take the case. He has until mid-October, and the injunction that was put in place originally was taken away. So all the tariffs stand for now. But my point is, the world is teetering on some pretty scary stuff. Now is not the time to hobble the president and take away from him the tools to bring our enemies to heel. But the left literally would sell out this country, would give up America just to spite Trump. That's the long and the short of it. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Back in a moment. Don't go anywhere, folks. More of the What's Right show up next.
I'm the best.
Personal injury law has been the same for a long time.
The best.
Big egos, greed, and sleazy schemes. We've had enough. Welcome to Sam and Ash, the new standard for personal injury law, where things are done the right way, because you deserve a team that delivers real support and results. When you have both, your whole world can change. Sam and Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right.
Hi, welcome back. Sam Mirejovsky here, Nevada's favorite recovering Californian behind the What's Right microphone. Sam at what'srightshow.com is where you reach me. That's my email, at What's Right Sam on X. If you don't follow me on X, follow me right now, okay? That's my directive to you. Just get on so we can interact, we can hang out. On the weekend, for example, when we don't have a show for 3 days. I mean, I know we're all jonesing to find out what's on my mind. Well, all right. At What's Right Sam on X. Okay. So, a couple of funny things from the presser. Trump is standing. He gets asked about the rumor online, the viral rumor that he was dead over the weekend. It was such a big rumor. I had people reaching out to me to see if through my contacts I could figure out if the president was alive or dead. Now, some serious people were trying to reach me were reaching me and trying to find this out. So I don't know. I didn't realize that it was so viral. It was just normal because the left has been fantasizing about killing Trump and Trump dying, and hopefully in a painful way. This is how they talk for some time. So I didn't think this was earth-shattering. Anyway, Trump gets asked the question. This is, of course, in singular fashion, just a 10 out of 10 Trump answer to a member of the press.
Something completely different, but about a big viral social media trend over the weekend. How did you find out over the weekend that you were dead? You see that?
No.
People didn't see you for a couple days. 1.3 million user engagements as of Saturday morning about your demise.
Really? I didn't see that. You know, I have heard, it's sort of crazy, but last week I did numerous news conferences, all successful. They went very well, like this is going very well. And then I didn't do any for 2 days, and they said, there must be something wrong with him. Biden wouldn't do them for months. You wouldn't see him. And nobody ever said there was ever anything wrong with him, and we know he wasn't in the greatest of shape.
Hey, I took 2 days off and you had me presumed dead. Where the hell were these questions when Biden would disappear for a month at a time? I mean, he's absolutely spot on. Now, here was the moment in the presser. Again, this was a mere hour ago. Trump gets asked about Putin. Now, you tell me what you think here, and also notice Trump's humanity here, singularly focused on the massive loss of life in this conflict.
Have you spoken with President Putin?
Yeah, I don't want to. I have learned things that will be very interesting. I think in the next few days you'll find out.
Will there be any consequences if there isn't some type of announcement of a meeting with President Putin and President Zelensky?
Yeah, there will be. We're going to see what happens. We're going to see what they do and what happens. I'm watching it very closely. Last week they lost 7,000 between the two countries. 7,313 soldiers, to be somewhat exact, for no reason whatsoever. And they're Russian and they're Ukrainian, but, you know, they're soldiers. I want to see it end. Yeah.
I mean, he's got it down to the numbers, right? He's getting his presidential daily brief. He remembers the numbers. And to him, each life matters. Remember, Trump ran, his platform has always been to end wars. He wants to be a peace-bringing president. It's a singular focus for him. So I'm just letting you know that's always been this is what he's doing. He's fulfilling this promise, but the media, of course, glosses over this. Now, I have this observation about this. Tell me what you think. Have you noticed how the left, whether they're, let's take the left in this country, really don't get focused on the war dead? Their focus is entirely on beating Putin. Must beat Putin. Putin bad. Okay, understood, right? He invaded the country. I'm not here to apologize for Putin, but that's what they're obsessed with. And they never talk about the soldiers dying. And it is a tragedy. These are young Russians and Ukrainians that are being sent into a human meat grinder. Notice how, and I think it comes from the same place. Notice how the left never acknowledges the shooting victims in these crime-infested cities. They just want to say, well, that just comes with it. Much as they say, well, that's just the cost of war. You know, of course, young Ukrainians are going to die or go into war. They're going to protect their homeland and fight Putin. Of course there's crime in Chicago. Of course there's crime in LA. I mean, we've had a number of notable politicians come out, Democrats, and say variations on that very statement. Crime's been here always. D.C., I mean, crime's a part of D.C. fabric. This is what we do. It's acceptable so long as it doesn't interfere with their ideology. With their ideology is you can't give Trump a win. And now, as it pertains to Ukraine, you're going to start to see this. One of the reasons you listen to this program is to see around corners, begin to anticipate things because you've heard it here before it actually happens. You're going to hear the left pivot in their messaging as Trump begins to get tough on Putin. They're going to want to see this conflict continue. They do not want to see an end to this. And they'll start to, actually debate Trump on the subject of this, particularly on this of his humanistic position of wanting to save lives. They will make it about the victory. They will make it about the pushing on back on Putin, not giving him an inch. And the question I always have is, would you send your son to war? Your grandson? Would you yourself be drafted? I tell you, I have an 18-year-old son. By the way, yes, happy birthday to Daniel. Yesterday turned 18. Big day. And a lot of people are asking me, do I feel weird having an adult child? And the answer is yes, I do. Not going to lie. I feel old. Thank you for asking. All right, Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. I'll be here waiting just through the break, just as you are. Obscene profit time out, but I'll see you on the other side of it. Don't go anywhere. All right, I feel as though I need to give a What's Right show congratulations to Ilhan Omar. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Omar, Congresswoman, part of the squad, visa fraud artist, among other things, now has a net worth purported to be $24 million. Up significantly from last year. Her and her husband, not her brother. I know it's confusing. Her husband, the Democratic strategist that she's married to, have really feathered their nest, declaring their assets on the most recent declaration form to be between 6 and 30 million. And when you parse through the details, about 24 million in assets. Not bad. I guess when it comes to the government, crime pays. I don't know. To me, Robbie, if we're going to do this deportation business the right way, if we're going to denaturalize bad actors in our society, I would think the perfect shot across the bow would be a member of Congress. I don't know, why is being a member of Congress somehow it makes you exempt from scrutiny, from prosecution? I mean, look at George Santos. He was a member of Congress. What I want to see is I want to see these indictments come down so the Democrats are put on the spot. You know, Republicans, and I wasn't that opposed to it because I think that George Santos was a clown. Republicans were quick to expel Santos after he was indicted on multiple charges. And there he went. He was kicked out of the House. A lot of Republicans went along with it. Fine. That's the standard. We set the standard. Now, what I would love to have happen is a number of these Democrats get indicted, because I'm telling you right now, there is nothing legit about your wealth ballooning, going up 95% like this year over year. It's not. I mean, look, I know everybody does it. I know that Nancy Pelosi did it. I get it. But this is really a good return, even by Pelosi standards. That's my point. All right. So bring it on. By the way, the ICE raids are continuing across the country. They're in full swing, so to speak. And I think a lot of people are confusing two separate actions. ICE enforcement across America, nabbing illegals, focusing by their own admission on criminal aliens, people that are in the country illegally, also who have open warrants or are suspected of criminal activity, going after those people first. And then, of course, whoever seems to get caught up along the way, targeting employers. Grow houses, there was a big raid in California again. Netted a bunch of illegals. Apparently, a couple of them, Robbie, were hiding in the ceiling. That's formidable. So they were up in the ceiling, and don't worry, the ICE people, they got them, caught them, and dragged them out of there. Left is apoplectic about all of this. The other set of enforcement, of federal enforcement, is this conversation about the National Guard. Now, okay, by the way, Trump suffered a setback in California. There was the trial court judge. It did not go to a jury, but this is a case decided on its merits. The judge decided that the Trump administration did not have the authority to deploy the Guard to California. Remember earlier in the year, when the paid-for Arabella advisors, George Soros, shady money going in there and buying everybody's cinder block bricks to rip the city apart, Trump sent in the National Guard. The Marines came out from Camp Pendleton, and look, ostensibly the and I said this from the beginning, people asked, why isn't the Guard doing more? Why are they allowing this damage to LA to happen? I said, look, they're there to protect federal assets. So they have a limited purpose to stay, within the color of law. So I'm not surprised, folks, that the judge decided the way he decided. It is a battle lost for Trump, but I don't see this as likely to cause the war to be lost overall. So this case will be appealed. But I only bring it up because, of course, there's talk about the National Guard going to Chicago, going again back to Los Angeles, going to San Francisco, going to blue cities that are wrecked. This is different from ICE. And to be clear, federal officers can go basically anywhere in the United States to enforce federal law. That's the supremacy clause in action. That's permissible, no problem. We have this little pesky posse comitatus act that technically, the broad strokes of it is, you can't send in the military to do law enforcement anywhere in the states. You could do it, by the way, in the Capitol. That's federal land. So again, the military can go in, but you can't do it you can't send the military into the states. Now, there have been exceptions to this. We've talked about this. You go back to Eisenhower, for example, 1957, Little Rock, Arkansas. Eisenhower deployed the National Guard there to enforce desegregation. He did this. He even sent in the 101st, I think it was 101st Airborne Division to protect black students. If you remember the Little Rock Nine. Well, the governor there wasn't pleased. He didn't have permission of the governor. The governor was violating the civil rights of American citizens in his state. The key critical thing here is, what is Trump using these troops for? And if you can argue, because there's another exception, right? Civil rights protections, yes. And in cases of rebellion. Now, I bring up the rebellion thing in particular, and I got it right here. I've got it at the tip of my fingers, folks. Don't you worry. The weekend, of course, Labor Day. A lot of people out there. So in advance of Labor Day, Brandon Johnson gave a little rally. Says this was good. Yeah, well, he gets up there. He's the mayor of Chicago. He is one of the stalwart anti-Trump, stop Trump people when it comes to crime enforcement. By the way, I have it here. Chicago, 54 shot over the weekend, 7 killed. It's a bloodbath. But kind of like with the war dead in Ukraine, nobody wants to talk about it on the left. They want to talk about stopping Trump, resisting Trump. They're actually okay if people in the ghetto die, so long as Trump doesn't get his way, so long as Trump is thwarted politically. It's really sick stuff. So Johnson, this is what I'm getting at. Johnson, this was actually on Labor Day, yesterday, does this rally. Listen to some of the language that he uses. And again, I'm just reminding you, what are the exceptions to the Posse Comitatus Act? Here's what he said.
No federal troops in the city of Chicago. No militarized force in the city of Chicago. We're going to defend our democracy in the city of Chicago. We're going to protect the humanity of every single person in the city of Chicago. And we got the baddest freaking labor movement in the city of Chicago, birthed right here. Are you prepared to defend this land that was built by slaves, a land that was built by indigenous people, a land that is built by workers? Are you prepared to defend this land? The people united will always prevail. I need you all to stand firm, to stand strong. If this president decides to continue to break this Constitution.
feel like I'm at an ANC rally somewhere in South Africa. I mean, this guy, my point is, look at the language that he's using. It's an open rebellion against law and order. That's the color of his language. He's going to gather up the forces of the left. He's summoning the demons, right? Getting them all together. We're going to stand up. But what is he standing up for? He's standing up for the right of Chicago specifically, okay? And Illinois, the state generally, because the law matters. It's Illinois generally. He's standing up for the right of Chicago and Illinois to allow people to be murdered senselessly with violence that has run amok. That's a very bad position to take, in my opinion, just lawyer speaking. Because all the administration has to do is say, well, those 7 people who were killed, the 54 that were shot, have a legitimate legal interest to the pursuit of happiness and to life. They have a reasonable expectation that their government will protect them. They have standing under the Civil Rights Act to live. And if the government is willfully abandoning these people by virtue of setting up sanctuary cities and defunding the police and doing all of these deliberate, overt acts of rebellion against the Constitution via the Civil Rights Act, then all of a sudden, by the way, I think it legally throws the door wide open for Trump to prevail in the Supreme Court. So my take actually on some of these crazy things that Johnson says is that it's great evidence. I think the Solicitor General and the DOJ, Trump lawyers, basically, the Trump administration lawyers are looking at this and going, oh, record that, get me a transcript of everything, put it down, or putting it straight into our pleading, straight into our briefs on this case to prove it and to push it forward. I'm just telling you, because I think he's making the case. And you know, by the way, he went on MSNBC on Friday and said that the federal troop occupation is not about the Constitution. It's not about, it's about the Constitution, not about crime. It's not about, listen to this.
The president has already made it very clear that he does not want another election. And we have to take those type of threats that he has put forward seriously. And it is quite obvious that he is not supportive of our Constitution. And that's really what it boils down to in this moment. Either you support the Constitution or you do not. And this president has literally trampled on the sensibility of what our democracy is all about. And so, you know, the city of Chicago, I can tell you this emphatically, we are not going to accept or nor are we calling for the occupation of our city by federal troops. In fact, no American city is calling for that. And this president has worked to make nonpartisan institutions. He has demonstrated over and over again that he is not committed to what we know to be true, is that our democracy really requires the full participation of every single person. What this president is looking to do is to divide communities, and that's why we've been incredibly firm in Chicago and cities across America that not only are we going to defend our democracy, we're going to make sure that we protect our humanity as well.
That was a minute and 19 seconds of a brain-addled twit saying a whole lot of nothing other than we will resist Trump if he comes in to protect the civil rights of ordinary U.S. citizens in Chicago. And that is a problem. Be right back, folks. Just a minute. Hang tight. Hi, welcome back. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. The What's Right show is brought to you by Sam and Ash Injury Law. In a crash, call Sam and Ash 702-820-1234 because you deserve what's right. All right. So there's another component of all of this that just gets me. By the way, Johnson, in one of the clips that I played, is talking about, and lost in that sort of avalanche of empty words, is almost a throwaway comment. It's not a throwaway comment. What was it? Let me find it here. President has already made it clear that he does not want another election. Per Mayor Brandon Johnson, mayor of Chicago, where people are dropping like flies as bullets whiz through the air and police are nowhere to be found. Okay. What is this all about? I just put a pin in that because I want to come back to this. You're going to see a recurring theme. Now, last week, I went on, it was Real America's Voice. I had a great talk. Yeah, it was Riley's show, Riley Lewis. And we were talking about the news that George Soros apparently had been threatened by Trump with a RICO prosecution. Now, what was this? Are you following the story? So Trump went and said to Soros and his goofy-looking kid, and said, hey, you guys keep funding these groups that, are, basically Antifa fronts. If you keep funding Antifa, if you keep funding these criminal organizations that are looking to cheat in elections, that are buying cinder block bricks that are used to tear open and terrorize American cities, are hiring thugs to go out there and intimidate people in protests, etc., we will file charges against you. We will arrest you. We'll drag your Hungarian carcass, talking about George Soros, your Hungarian carcass down into federal prison, maybe even throw you into a solitary confinement cell give you the J6 treatment. And Soros talks a big talk, but I think, the kid in particular, he doesn't look like he'd hold up in jail, if you catch my drift. Yeah, I would keep that rope on a very short leash, soap on a very short rope. Okay. So I think the gist of it was they freaked out. Now remember, there was this like almost like blink and you missed it story where it was a big story, but it didn't make any sense to people at the time, where Bill Gates broke up with Arabella Advisors, a far left group that funds all sorts of Antifa causes. And by the way, they were behind the riots in LA earlier in the year. And Bill Gates publicly said, I'm not funding it anymore. Now, what does this all mean? Well, I heard that Gates had a nice 3-hour sit down with Trump in the Oval Office. Gee whiz, I wonder what Trump told Bill Gates in that little conversation. Now, I was talking about this last week on Real America's Voice. And the story has sort of blown up over the weekend. Once again, I was ahead of it. Unfortunately, I didn't bring it here to you guys. So forgive me that I just, there's too much going on. So I can't cover everything. All right. So here's my take on it. And as we kind of get into this next hour here and second hour of the What's Right show, I want to develop this a little bit further. There is a two-pronged battle going on right now. A two-pronged battle by which Republicans, well, no thanks to congressional Republicans, but Trump is going to give Republicans the advantage in the midterms. And the Democrats realize it, which is why the mayor of Chicago here, Brandon Johnson, is saying things like that Trump doesn't want another election. Trump doesn't want another cooked election. And there's two things that are happening in concert together that is absolutely destroying the Democratic machine before our very eyes. And the best part is, no one's talking about it. The media isn't covering it. They're following all the flashbang, whatever the latest thing, fantasizing about Trump dropping dead. But they absolutely are missing the big picture. And the ones that know that they know what's going on are scared out of their minds. Which is why right now you're seeing such a push of antagonism against Trump, because the Democrats in the know realize this is an existential crisis for them. So I'll explain all of this when we come back. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Sam@what'srightshow.com is my email. Email me during the break if you've got any questions, comments, concerns. @what'srightsam on X. See you soon. Is Nancy Mace the most obnoxious Republican in Congress? I'm asking you, Robbie. I'm serious. My gosh, this woman is something else. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Maybe this is just me tripping all over my toxic masculinity. But hear me out. Okay, the Epstein victims were testifying in a hearing on Capitol Hill. I'm not going to get it. That's not the issue. The point is, Nancy Mace sends out a tweet, and she says that she had to walk out of the room because she was so traumatized hearing from these women describe what occurred to them, and that she, as a sexual abuse survivor 2 years ago, just couldn't handle this. There it is. I sent off a tweet. I know it's going to be controversial. By the way, if you don't follow me, you need to, @what'srightsam on X, formerly known as Twitter. And my tweet basically, look, here's what I said. Your job in Congress that day, today, in that hearing, was to listen to the victims. That's your job. You signed up, you ran to be a member of Congress. You think it's all daisies and unicorns and Care Bears, rainbows, and stuff like that? I would imagine getting classified briefings about terrible things happening in the world. Some of it's got to be horrendous. I assume members of Congress were briefed, for example, on the events of October 7th. I imagine that stuff was terrible to see. I am assuming it was triggering to a whole number of people. But you have to do it. It's the job. So I get it. Look, if you're, if you have, traumas, then go work in a library, okay? Just don't be a member of Congress. This is such a setback for women. This is such a setback for this grosses me out. My God, Nancy Mace. Ugh. Okay, I'm done. Let's talk about the Democrats. Hey, by the way, Thomas Massey got together. I'm going to talk. Fine, I'm just to say it really quickly. Doing this, this Epstein victim thing. Massey really knows how to just step on his own weenie. He's like an expert at this. This is such look, investigate it, whatever. You know what to pull. This is a stunt. To me, it's theater, right? Congress has the power of subpoena. They could pull all these records, all these things. They could get stuff and make it public. Why don't they? No, they want theater. And I don't like Republicans that do this, right? And we do not need, let the Democrats be the theater kids, right? Let them do the performance art. I don't like when Republicans do it. That's, I guess, my point in all of this. All right. So speaking of the Democrats, just before the break, mentioning that I really think the Democratic Party's in trouble. And in an actual way, this is not anything to do with public support. This has everything to do with the machine that has generated Democratic wins across the country and even at a national level in past presidential elections. 2020, okay? Number one, ICE deployed across the country catching illegal aliens or rounding them up, putting them off in the paddy wagon, sending them over to Alligator Alcatraz or wherever is effective. It's more effective, I think, than many of us thought it would be at this stage. There is a significant number, whether I think between 1 and 2 million, maybe higher, of illegals that have disappeared. They've either been deported or have self-deported. Many others are on the way. 1 year in, by this I mean, let's say January of 2026, that number will be much higher. Where will it be come November, come the midterm election in 26, by the end of the year? Well, it should be pretty high. Now, this matters because the Democratic Party has long sought to goose their electoral support via a mass migration scheme. They human trafficked millions of people into the country, not just in the Biden years, but in years preceding this, allowing them to come. Republicans going along with it because, we're dumb most of the time, particularly as soon as we get into Congress, like something wipes in the hard drive and you forget every conservative principle you've ever had. So anyway, it happened. They're here, and they were used to create political power for the Democrats in blue areas. The entire point and purpose behind sanctuary states, sanctuary counties, and sanctuary cities was to attract as many illegals there as possible and to build political support for the Democratic Party. ICE is decimating this. Now, the other part of this, of course, is the money. These RICO prosecutions that are being threatened by Trump and the Trump DOJ against Soros, against Gates, has a chilling effect. You can't foment revolution. You can't print fake ballots if you don't have the money to print fake ballots. Like, all of it costs money, right? So, and it's not just the RICO stuff, it's also the USAID money that was taken away. In fact, every, day, but certainly every week, it seems that there's another story of another $1 billion or $400 million or something that's been cut from either the defense budget or from Homeland Security, whatever, for programs that are nonsensical, for these NGOs that just were, operating in funding money. By the way, these NGOs, I'll give you Planned Parenthood as an example. Planned Parenthood would get money from the government, would get grants from the government, and then turn around and give massive donations to the Democratic Party. In other words, the Democrats conspired to send money to their pet NGOs and laundered our tax dollars back into their political coffers. It was that obvious. It was that transparent. Now, with the money spigot on low, if not cut off completely, the Democrats are in real trouble come November. Well, in November, 2026, right? The midterms. Trump will not have been in office a full 2 years at that point. But this is real stuff. And every time you hear a Democrat talk about how Trump doesn't want another election, really what they're saying, remember, that's the clip I played of Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago. Every time a Democrat says Trump doesn't want to see another election, really what he's saying is Trump doesn't want to see another. Trump doesn't want another election like the ones we had before. Let me play for you, for example. I'm just telling you this. Pritzker, this is last week, Pritzker's talking at a press conference about how Trump is that his ICE enforcement has a chilling effect on elections. On elections. This was just yesterday on MSNBC. This was what he said.
This is a part of his plan to do something really nefarious, which is to interfere with elections in 2026. He wants to have troops on the ground to stop people from voting, to intimidate people from going to the voting booth. So take note. That is what this is all about.
Well, that's weird. Why would ICE enforcement, why would going out there and arresting illegals stop people from voting? I mean, I think I know what excuse the left is going to have. They'll say, well, the brown people aren't going to want to come out of hiding because they worry that ICE is going to get them. Well, that is the most racist thing on the planet, because I'm in a city that I live in, Las Vegas. We have a lot of Hispanics here. I can guarantee you from just the fact that I've been circulating around town for the last however many weeks that they're not all in hiding, okay? People are going to work. People are going to the shop. People are going everywhere. Okay, so maybe the people that are hiding or are afraid are the ones whose papers aren't in order. Those people should not be voting in a federal election. What am I missing here? By the way, Friday on Pivot with Kara Swisher, Gavin Newsom literally says that ICE will be present at polling stations to intimidate voters. Isn't he just admitting that the Democratic Party is well aware and encourages and can't live without illegal votes cast in elections?
If he can rig next year's election, we joke about not having another one. I don't think that's a joke. He will wire this for the next 20, 30 years. If it's a JD or if it's a Don, it doesn't even matter. He will wire it. He's already sending out masked people to intimidate folks. When we launched our campaign, he did it down in Little Tokyo in LA. Do you think ICE is not going to show up around voting and polling booths to chill participation? You know that. The National Guard, you know that. Everybody knows what's at stake. So we have to put a stake in the ground and do things differently.
No, I don't know what he means, but obviously it sounds a little dicey to me, problematic. If you're openly saying as a governor of a populous state, i.e. California or Illinois, because Pritzker's saying the same thing, what these ICE people are going to show up at election day and intimidate people from not voting. It's not voter intimidation if the voters aren't legit. It's not voter suppression if the voters cannot, by order of federal law, vote in a federal election. These people, do they even realize what they're admitting to? But the fact that they're saying it out loud suggests to me that panic is setting in deep inside the Democratic Party. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT, the What's Right Show will be back in a moment.
The Salmon Ash team, they wanted me to have the best care. They had my interests at heart. I have an enormous amount of gratitude. I cannot say enough thank you.
Well, Pritzker, as we speak, holding a press conference, the big man himself, governor of Illinois, worried that the Trump invasion is imminent. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone, the What's Right show, making radio great again, Monday through Friday, right here on News Talk 840 KXNT. So, here's well, he's panicking, yes. Here's a little snippet of what Pritzker said. He claims that Trump is planning. Well, he says it's Steve Miller. He says Trump, basically, the administration's planning to do this because of Mexico Independence Day celebrations in the month of September.
We have reason to believe that Stephen Miller chose the month of September to come to Chicago because of celebrations around Mexican Independence Day that happen here every year. It breaks my heart to report that we have been told ICE will try and disrupt community picnics and peaceful parades. Let's be clear, the terror and cruelty is the point, not the safety of anyone living here.
Okay. The terror and cruelty. Again, remember, right now Trump is threatening to dismantle the machine the Democrats have meticulously built up over the last 25 years to ensure their ongoing political power. Just before the break, played a clip of Governor Newsom talking about how if Republicans do it, they're set for the next 20, 30 years. Really what it is, he's projecting. They thought they had it made in the shade. You know, it actually, I suspect, will turn out that once you clean up the elections, the Democrats aren't nearly as popular in elections as we once thought. And Trump is determined to dismantle the machine that took him out and almost ended him after 2020. You talk about the counter lawfare movement. This is a huge part of it. By the way, CNN ran a segment. They couldn't even believe what they were hearing because they had on a Republican strategist. And they had this guy on. They were asking him basically about his name is Brad Todd, about the 2020 census and all the errors. And Kate Bolden couldn't even believe this. This was back a couple weeks ago, but I want to play it here because it just fits perfectly in with what's being talked about here. The census was fudged. The census, they monkeyed with it. And now you take away all the people there that were getting counted in these blue districts and do it properly. Oh, boy. I mean, the Democrats are in for an absolute drubbing. Listen to this.
Does this have everything to do with redistricting?
Well, it does. In fact, we know the 2020 census, the errors were almost always to the detriment of red states. Blue states like Rhode Island.
Do we know that?
We do know that. The Census Bureau's own audit of its work has proven that. Blue states like Rhode Island were overcounted. Rhode Island then didn't lose a seat. Red states like Alabama were undercounted. Listen, this is just a fact. It wasn't all red-blue, but it was disproportionately red-blue.
Yeah, so, again, well, they're just going to come out here and disrupt the Mexican celebrations. Well, that's one thing. By the way, he says there's no crime emergency. You know, there's a Chicago pastor that went on TV to talk about just how bad things are. And this was, I mean, it was heart-wrenching stuff because, of course, you know, this is real. Project Hood founder, Pastor Corey Brooks, went on Fox and Friends. Brian Kilmeade asks, says, listen, I had this guy introduces him. Crime's going down. Leave us alone. Should they leave you guys alone? Meaning Trump. Should Trump listen, in other words, to all the Democrats, from the mayor to the governor and all the politicians that do not want Trump's National Guard to come in? Listen to how he answers this.
Absolutely not. We need to invite President Trump in. We invite the National Guard in. You know, we've had 254 deaths in 233 days. 80% of those have been black boys. And for anyone in our community to say that things are getting better and that people are safe, that is an outright lie. We need to do any and everything we can to keep our citizens safe. One of the number one priorities of government is to make sure that the citizens of America stay safe. And that should be the number one priority of the governor and the mayor. But it's not, because the only thing that they're really concerned when it comes to black lives that matter is black lives that matter that vote.
Wow. Again, it's all about the votes. The Democrats are messing with this. Here's a Chicago alderman also taking issue with the governor and the mayor.
There's nothing stopping the mayor of the city of Chicago, the governor of the state of Illinois, from picking up the phone and reaching out to the president of the United States and saying, what can we do to be on the same page? We should all be looking to continuously decrease the amount of victims in our city and in our state. And instead, we're getting into this tit for tat social media back and forth nonsense, which is only putting the people of Chicago and the people of Illinois in the middle, in the crosshairs of the criminals who are going to use this time to exploit and go crazy, as we're continuing to see this weekend, where we've had multiple mass shootings, multiple victims, and no one wants to talk about them. I hear the governor talking about an invasion, an insurrection. I hear the mayor writing useless orders against the federal government. But what no one is talking about is, if our crime stats are decreasing, why can't we push with Donald Trump's help and decrease them even more? How many victims are we comfortable with? Because that's ultimately the subtext of what the mayor and the governor are saying, is that we are comfortable with the amount of victims we have right now. We don't need to improve on our numbers any further than that.
Bingo. Because the Democrats care more about their power and about winning elections than they do about their own dead citizens. It is so sick, but unfortunately, I hate to break it to you, folks. It's real. Now, I got a story out of Great Britain that is a cautionary tale, something that just happened over the weekend. I need to share it with you. You do not want to miss this. Oh, I guess it's time to go. All right, I'm here. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Greetings, friends. Welcome to the show. By the way, I teased this earlier. Newsom lost a case in court, and it's this was the legislation in California that was signed into law by Gavin Newsom last year, that banned, well, they call them deep fake videos of politicians. It's pretty rich. Okay, the two laws in question, AB 2655 and 2839, were passed in response to Musk sharing a spoof campaign ad that made fun of Kamala Harris. And Newsom, by the way, at the time, wrote on X, on Twitter, manipulating a voice in an ad like this one should be illegal. I'll be signing a bill in a matter of weeks to make sure it is. Musk said he consulted with a professor, eminent legal scholar. I can't say it on air, but it was vulgar. And he added that the parody is still legal in America. All right. So, yes, the law has been struck down. Obviously, in America, we have a First Amendment that protects comedy and satire. It also protects speech that is critical of the government. It also protects speech that is offensive. You can be offensive. Well, not every country has First Amendment protections. And I like to talk about this from time to time as a reminder of how good we have it, and also present it as a glimpse of a parallel universe that is the embodiment of the pinnacle of what the left would want in our country if they could, do away with the Bill of Rights. The left would love to be able to arrest you and me for thought crimes. They would love to round us up simply for speaking out against their views. Because they're not winning on the substance of the matter, right? They're not winning in the open marketplace of ideas. We're winning there. So what do? Well, they'll do what authoritarians do, right? They go full fascist. This is why under Biden we had that Nina Jankowicz lady who he put in as the disinformation czar. So it was like straight out of a, dystopian novel. They were going to tell us what is true and what isn't true, kind of like they did during COVID, and that, did not go over particularly well. So there's this story that just happened over the weekend. This is absolutely wild. This is a British guy who is he's leaving Arizona. I think he's flying out of, I assume it's a British Airways flight to London, so to Heathrow. So it's a BA British Airways flight out of Phoenix. Based on the facts, that's what I presume. His name is Graham Linehan. Now, Graham Linehan, I have to tell you, I know this guy. I know this guy because he is a guy who created, wrote, and directed The IT Crowd, which is one of my favorite British comedies of all time. Let me tell you how this comedy is so brilliant. It's about two nerds that work in an IT department, a big company in London, and they have this wildly inappropriate sexual harasser boss, and then they've got the owner of the company, the president of the company, and then they have their immediate supervisor is a woman put into the role because she's a woman, and she has no idea about anything having to do with computers whatsoever. That's the setup and premise of the show. It's brilliant. And if you go and watch, I think it's still on Netflix. Go and watch it if you have a moment. And the episode called The Work Outing is one of the funniest sitcom episodes that has ever been on television. So, Linehan is a really, really funny guy. Now, he also has become a little bit outspoken recently about all the trans insanity going around the world and the immigrant insanity in Great Britain. And he put out some tweets, one on April 4th, one on April 19th, one on April 20th. And these led to him, as soon as he landed in Heathrow, to be escorted off the plane by 5 armed police officers who took him to a holding cell and left him there for hours. He told them, even after the long flight, he was tired enough he was able to take a nap. And they brought him in and they started questioning him about these tweets. Now, I have the tweets. Well, I know you're probably wondering, what the hell did he write? Okay. Here's one. If a trans-identified male is in a female-only space, he is committing a violent, abusive act. Make a scene, call the cops, and if all else fails, punch him in the balls. Well, look, it seems pretty reasonable to me. Okay. Then there was a picture of a protest, and I'm looking at this protest, a lot of trans flags and grungy-looking people, and he wrote, again, this guy writes comedy for a living, a photo you can smell. Now, because these people are trans activists, he writes, I hate them, misogynists and homophobes. He's also, I think, talking about Islamic activists in that too. We know that Islam is not particularly tolerant of homosexuality, but the political left isn't too hung up on that for the time being. So why am I talking about this? First and foremost, make no mistake about it, the average person who voted for Kamala Harris would love to see this happen in America. That's like a fact. If you polled Kamala Harris voters and said, hey, somebody writes something about punching a tranny in her nutsack, would you support arresting that individual? And I think, I'm telling you, I know these people like the back of my hand. Most of them would say yes. Now, the other reason I'm letting you know this is that almost at the exact same moment, within a year apart, the UK and I would add actually Europe, but the UK in particular, and the US took completely divergent paths. The UK elected Labour. They elected a man named Keir Starmer. They doubled down on all of this political correctness nonsense. They're going after, they want to shut down Twitter. They want to limit what you can say. The police will investigate you It's happening in other countries, in Germany, et cetera, too. Remember, I played for you the sit-down interview, 60 Minutes. Our 60 Minutes, our American news people who ought to be in awe and full of gratitude over the First Amendment and the opportunities it affords them, actually sat down and gushed over the fascists in Germany, talking about how they were fining old ladies, 3,000, 4,000 euros for a text or a tweet that they put up on social media. At the very same time that Europe went that direction, we elected Donald Trump. Now here's what's so great about this, right? You see all those interviews of those snot-nosed, whiny liberals in Europe, for example, or Canada. We'll throw Canada in there too, because they're going in a bad direction too. Oh, I don't even know what's going on in America now. I would never visit America. Oh my gosh. No, really, like people are saying that. I would never visit America. Okay, don't come here then. If somebody in Border Patrol in the UK went through my Twitter, I would be arrested on the spot. I've made a decision now, for example, when I fly to the Czech Republic, which I'm going to do later this week, I fly to the Czech Republic, I do not fly through London anymore, even though we have a great British Airways connection out of Las Vegas. I just don't do it. I'm not going to put my two little feet on British soil because this is the kind of stuff that they do. Now, at the same moment that Great Britain is doing this, that the UK is doing this, that countries in Europe, we have Trump. And what's Trump doing? Trump is, I would say, I feel a noticeable difference in the last 6 months of the ability to freely express yourself. And when people are able to freely express themselves, look at what that is doing to the left. The left is withering in our country. They're being pushed away. Look at the popularity of the Democratic Party. It's in the toilet. You know why? Because all of their misdeeds can be talked about. We can go on the radio and I can tell you that it is insane that a young man who is confused, who's mental, who has problems, is being encouraged by his father. I'm talking now about the shooter from last week in Minneapolis, being encouraged by his father to transition. That instead of fixing mental illness, we're encouraging it. If you go to these other countries, you call, trans a mental illness, you're going to get arrested. Now, it's a problem because you and I are common sense, and we know that trans is a mental illness. We know that we ought to be treating it as a mental illness from a position of compassion, obviously. But we shouldn't be celebrating it the way the left does. And the more we celebrate it, the more society is going to come apart at the seams. The more sick, twisted, and ultimately regretful people we're going to have running around causing damage in our society to themselves and to others. We're going to avoid all of this, right? Because we're able to talk about it, we're able to criticize it, we're able to advocate against it. And we are winning in the marketplace of ideas. And we have Elon Musk to thank for this. We have Trump to thank for this. But we've just gone in a radically different direction. Now we're going to be leading the world. America is going to become stronger and actually, in fact, wealthier, economically more powerful, as we once again regain our standing as the shining city on a hill. The Democrats had to pay the third world to come here so that they could ship them around the country and build up their political strength. Trump is doing away with that and rebuilding a place where people like Graham Lineman and others who no longer feel home in their countries of origin will come here. And by the way, these are smart people, capable people, productive people. You want to talk about the kind of people that we want here? We want people that have seen the insanity around the world and are thinking straight. are productive, will bring money and talent with them. This is not a person that's going to need a handout from Catholic Charities to be relocated to a 4-star hotel on the government dime, in other words. That election last year, what a fork in the road, man. If it could have, I know it wasn't close, but it was close. It was close. It was too close, in my view. Just think about where we could be had Trump not won. Whew. Terrible. All right, I got to run, but it's just going long today. Just so much to talk about. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. This is great. Trump, I guess, just 20 minutes ago released a tweet of a video of a narcotics boat in the ocean leaving Venezuela, filled to the brim with drugs and 11 terrorists. The video shows the boat getting taken out by a missile, a military missile operation here, eliminating everybody on board, sinking the vessel. More of this, please. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. I was talking to a buddy of mine who's a retired Special Forces guy. And he's been out of the business for a long time, but we were talking about what's likely going on with all of the troop buildup, the ships surrounding Venezuela, and basically his thought on it was that we could end the cartels in Mexico in days, with a handful of Special Forces units. That the cartels could stand up to maybe the military police, ordinary troops possibly, but not the Special Forces. That is just not going to happen. So the war on drugs is on, whether we realize it or not. And those people out there who lamented the war on drugs and thought it was going too far, now we see how many drugs are in the country and how many, zombied out crazy people we have in the country and how many people are dying of drug overdoses. And something does have to be done about it. So anyway, back, just need to mention this here. This Graham Lineman guy. One of the principal reason he apparently, if you're just joining us, this is a British comedy writer, producer, very talented guy, has a number of shows under his belt. By the way, he used to target with a funny show the Catholic Church. He didn't get into any trouble for that, right? That's acceptable. You can make fun of religion. It's called Father Ted. So Lineman wrote that, thank God the Catholic Church never had with the police the special relationship granted to trans activists. But it's true. In Great Britain, in the UK, the trans activists seem to be running wild, running amok. And that's happening certainly here. And if it weren't for Trump, I think it'd be happening a lot more. Here is Lineman talking earlier this year. I believe this was in August, to Joe Rogan about everything that was going on, all the visitations. He had gotten into trouble with the police before his arrest over the weekend for some mean tweets that he'd posted. Listen to what he says and how he describes this.
My original offense was, I think, sharing a piece by a feminist named Heather Brunskill Evans that said exactly what you said just at the beginning, a few minutes ago, where you said, yeah, people have things going on in their head. They need to be respected and they need to be helped. And the next thing that happened was that a sex offender, and we found this out later, but a sex offender and kind of serial litigant in the UK, he reported me to the police, sued me on the same weekend, and the police came to my home, they phoned me that time, and since then I've been basically, the police just visit every so often on the orders of these, and this guy was he sexually assaulted a 14-year-old boy, and basically the police in the UK are working for these men. you know? So
he can complain anytime he wants and they just visit you?
Yeah.
And there's no repercussions?
No, not so far. He's been doing it for 8 years. And then The Guardian reported that as Graham Linehan is warned by police for harassing a trans woman.
As a pedophile, literally a person who has been found guilty of diddling a 14-year-old boy while posing as a woman. And the police are going after the guy who speaks out against it. Remember also, the United Kingdom is where rapist gangs of migrant men were targeting underage girls, and the girls were getting arrested for the crime of reporting it. If you think that's outlandish, it actually happened. It happened. See, for the liberal, the world's upside down. Their entire intent to the liberal mind is to take whatever is common sense and just flip it. You just flip it. Of course, a man can become a woman. Of course, a woman can become a man. Of course, a rape victim is not a victim under certain conditions. Of course, people who are not legal to be in the country should be in the country. Of course, they should be able to get away with whatever they want. And of course, any criticism of any of this, anyone going, but wait, the emperor, he's naked. Anybody who goes against the narrative and speaks truth should be targeted with the full weight of the law. You know, it could happen here. The Democrats win, stack the Supreme Court. We reinterpret the First Amendment based on what activist judges would see. I mean, it could definitely happen in the U.S. Don't think it can. Which is why I will continue talking about these stories. All right, folks, I'll see you tomorrow. Be safe out there.